Earlier in the show, we watched a few pieces of Donald Trump's latest Gong Show press conference, which was, of course, a complete and total train wreck. And yesterday, we watched pieces of the Mar-a-Lago press conference, where he was fantasizing about taking Canada by economic force, taking Greenland and the Panama Canal, potentially with military force, renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and of course, rambling about water pressure and gas heaters and itchy heat. And it is easy to laugh. I get it. And to a degree, it can be tempting to dismiss this as kind of like Trump being Trump. He says a lot of things. It doesn't necessarily reflect what he's going to do. But I do think it's important to talk about this, especially as we're now just 11 days from the inauguration of Donald Trump, and really think about what it means, because it's not just bizarre and sometimes sort of ha-ha funny. As many of our blue state and foreign viewers have already recognized, this is extraordinarily dangerous for a number of different reasons. Now, of course, there's the decline side. Trump's decline isn't new. And you might hear me saying that, and you might say, David, which decline are you talking about exactly? It doesn't have to be cognitive decline or just that. What we're talking about here is a personality decline, a behavioral decline, a temperamental decline, speech fluidity, and constitutional decline. And it's something that we've seen building for years. The incoherent rants, the nonsensical tangents, the inability or unwillingness to answer a question directly, the complete inability to stay on message. It's not just self-restraint. It's an increasing detachment from reality. And right now, with Trump approaching 80 years of age, he's angling for a second term where, without having to worry about re-election, without being accountable to voters in any real way, he can finally be the unrestrained Trump that he probably wanted to be in his first term, but realized, at least to a degree, that he had to run for re-election. We could stop the analysis there, and it would be terrifying enough. But then you have to add to that this time around, it is much more overtly going to be an administration and a cabinet controlled by billionaires and by corporate cronies whispering in his ear, which they did before, but it's going to be even more overt and out in the open. And it's really shaping up to be a recipe for complete and total disaster. Think about what Trump's second term would mean in practical terms. The man who stood on stage 2 days ago, and when he was asked about the January 6th rioters being pardoned, he said, we've got to figure out what Hezbollah has to do with the January 6th riots. That guy is going to have the nuclear codes. I recently read and have recommended in my once a month a book recommendation newsletter, which if you're on our main newsletter, you get my book recommendations once a month. I recommended the book by Annie Jacobson outlining what a nuclear war scenario looks like. And my takeaway from the book was, as I read the fictionalized version of it, in the real world, starting 11 days from now, the people in this book that are making the decisions would potentially be Trump and Pete Hegseth. And that's absolutely terrifying. This is not a guy, as you see the press conference 2 days ago and the one yesterday, that I would trust to make split-second life or death decisions, especially in an environment where ego and self-aggrandizement are his primary values and concerns. And then you zoom out even further and you say, okay, forget about the nuclear codes for a second, but just global diplomacy. Forget it. Forget it. Imagine Trump again at a high-stakes summit with world leaders, ranting about renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, or bodies of water and their relevance to water that slowly drips out of our showers, and why are we putting water in the Pacific when we're not getting the shower pressure that we need in Los Angeles, and sort of waxing poetic about seizing foreign territory. It's absurd. There's an element of comedy, which often is a sort of protective measure. We laugh to avoid crying, but it's horrifying. It's horrifying because think back to the G7, where Trump came out with Putin and said, I don't know, I trust him. He told me they didn't hack, and he denied it very strongly. And yeah, I believe Putin over all of our intelligence agencies. That was before. That was, 7 years ago now. This is where the rubber will meet the road with real decisions that have to be made that impacts peace, stability, and just people's ability to live without who knows what hanging over their heads. And then we also have to talk about the military. Put aside the nuclear codes for a moment. Put aside diplomacy for a moment. Do we really want someone who floated the idea of economic force to annex Canada or military force to take the Panama Canal and or Greenland? Do we want that person in charge of the armed forces or overseeing economic policy when the only people he listens to are billionaires looking for tax breaks and more deregulation? These are people who see Trump not as a leader, right? The billionaires who want Trump's ear, they don't see him as a leader. They see him as a tool to push their agenda, no matter the cost to working Americans. And then finally, crisis management. We saw how Trump handled COVID-19. We saw the denial and the deflection and the refusal to listen to experts. We're seeing inklings of it as he defers to RFK Jr. rather than doctors and medical researchers on issues of individual health. Imagine him dealing with another pandemic, whether it's bird flu or, lack of vaccination-induced measles or whatever it is. He's not going to deal with that properly. Imagine a natural disaster. Imagine a financial crisis, this time with no real accountability other than maybe he wants to set up his son to be VP in 2028. He's not going to listen to advisors that actually have expertise. He's not going to be seeking real solutions based in fact. It'll be, let me make this up as I go along, just like I always do, but with extraordinarily more disregard for expertise. So the reality that we land on is the instability, the decline of whatever kind you want to focus in on, the unchecked ego. It makes him uniquely unfit for the presidency. It's not about partisan politics or personal dislike. I'll be honest. I think to a great degree, Trump would probably be pretty entertaining to hang out with, right? To a degree, I understand why the people, some of whom always said, I don't like this guy, are now saying, well, the Mar-a-Lago stuff, and he's a nice guy, and the plane, and Trump Force One. On a personal level, it would probably be entertaining to hang out with Trump. But do you want someone ranting about water pressure and gas heaters and all of this other stuff, meeting with world leaders or deciding the fate of the economy? It's not funny at the end of the day. It's a warning sign that a lot of Trumpists are ignoring. Trump has told us who he is. He has told us loudly, clearly, and without apology, the stakes couldn't be higher. And as many of you know, I do not agree with Cenk Uyghur's assessment on the show yesterday that this is a new MAGA. Whether it's a new MAGA or not, on some minimal level, they are not influencing Trump, and Trump is as unhinged as ever. I now want to talk about more specifically with the natural disaster thing, Trump's reaction to the fires. Well, I wrote a book after a long journey and a ton of work. I am really thrilled with how it turned out, and I hope you'll read it. The book is called The Echo Machine. And in a nutshell, it looks at how American politics got so broken, who has already figured out solutions, and how we can try to fix it and stop the terror of Trump for the next 4 years. With Trump winning this election, The Echo Machine couldn't be more relevant, not only a warning about how we got here, but also about what might be coming and how to prevent the worst outcomes. We've got to stay engaged. We need a plan, and that's what the book is about. There's a belief out there that unless you have corporate media behind you, you can't have a successful political book launch, that it's not possible. I think we can prove that wrong. Order The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, anywhere that books, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold. You can also call any local bookstore and say, please order me The Echo Machine by David Pakman. Wherever you get the book, you'll get the free pre-order perks, including the signed book plate. Head to davidpakman.com/free book stuff after ordering.